This is Dave from Cheap Books, and I'm going to demonstrate in the video game World of Tanks. I'm going to show you which tanks I think are the best tanks in the game that you should definitely play. And keep in mind this will cover any tier in the game. So we're going to start with the American tanks. I would say of the American tanks, the best tanks are probably the T1 Heavy. The T1 Heavy is a fast tank. It's got a lot of power, and I did very well. I killed a lot of opponents with that T1 Heavy. And the M6 is kind of like the T1 Heavy, but I think the T1 Heavy has a lot of advantages over the other tanks in the game. So I definitely enjoyed playing the tank. I had a lot of good games with it. In that same tier, I would say perhaps the M4, maybe the M7 was kind of fun, and I even like the M6, but I think I like the T1 Heavy better than the rest of them. There's another tank here called the Hellcat, and the Hellcat is a very popular tank in the game. It's got a good gun, and it's fast. However, my playing style is that I like to get very close to the enemy, and I take a lot of hits. It doesn't have good armor, so you have to hide with a Hellcat. And I'm not the type of player who hides, so it wasn't a good tank for me, but it's a very popular tank in the game, and you'll probably enjoy playing the Hellcat. You've got these tanks, the M7, the T21, the T71, the T69, leading up to the Tier 10, the T57 Heavy. These are all fun tanks to play, especially when you get up to something like a T71 and a T69. People aren't really afraid of a T71 or a T21. They're not very scary. But when you get up to a T69, this tank is a very intimidating tank. One of the options that you have is this 90mm gun with the autoloader. When you have that tank, you can fire faster than your opponent can. And the M41 Bulldog also has a similar gun. I'm pretty sure, I don't know which gun it is, but I haven't purchased this tank yet, but I see other people playing it, and they do very well. It's a fast tank, and it's got a nice gun, and I don't like to have to go up against them. The T29, one of the greatest tanks in the game. I loved playing the T29. The T29 has decent armor. It's got a good gun. I'm not sure which of these guns was the best, because obviously I sold the tank and all of the equipment that came with it. But I loved playing the T29. That's a tank that I like to roll out every day and go kill a bunch of people. Right now I have the T32, which is similar to the T29. People complain about the T32 because I think it uses the same gun, but perhaps it has an armor upgrade. I don't remember, but it's still a fun tank to play. And the Tier 9 and 10 American tanks like this T110E5 and the M48 Patton, all of these tanks are pretty good. There's another tank called the T28 Prototype. I don't have it yet, but I don't like seeing them in the game. I'm a little bit intimidated by those tanks. And then we've got two premium tanks that I have. One is the T26E4 Super Pershing, and the other one is the T34. I love both of these tanks. In fact, I kind of like the T26E4 Super Pershing more than most of the other tanks. Probably because it's a little bit faster, but of all of the tanks that I own, that's one of my worst performing tanks. So I don't play very well in that tank. But again, I'm a frontline player. You know, if when I see the enemy, I get as close to him as possible. If he's hiding behind a rock, I hide on the other side of the same rock. So I take a lot of hits, and I get it's easy for them to kill me, I guess you could say. But I like playing the tank even if it's not my best performing tank. So let's move on to the British tanks. I liked playing the light tanks, the Cruiser, the Covenanter, the Crusader, the Cromwell, the Comet. Now I'm up to the Centurion. I loved playing them. These are good hit-and-run tanks. They're fast. You can sneak up on people, blast them, and run. So I really enjoyed these tanks. I got a lot of great games. You'll notice my Covenanter, you see it says 20,241 combat experience. That means that I played it after I didn't have to play anymore. I still played another probably 40 or 50 games with that in order to accrue all of those credits. There's another line here called the Churchill 1, the Churchill 7, the Black Prince. I really don't like these tanks that much, but they have good guns and they have good armor. And I don't remember which tank it was, but I remember that when I would pull out these tanks, I would kill a lot of enemy tanks. It's a slow tank. It doesn't move around that quickly, but I had good games with these tanks, even though I really am not that excited to play them. Here's another tank, the FV304. Whether you like SPG or not, I'm not that crazy about SPG, but the FV304 has a few great features about it. Number one, it's probably the smallest tank in the game. Number two, it's very fast. This tank is great for hiding and spying on people. As an example, I once used it and I spotted 13 out of 15 enemy tanks. We had the whole enemy team spotted the entire game, and we just bombarded them constantly, and we beat them probably like 15-0. And it's funny because I was sitting there watching them hide, and no matter where they tried to hide, they just couldn't hide. They were just constantly being spotted. So it's a great tank. You can go wherever you want. You can go to the front lines, and if you feel too much pressure, you can pull back. So I think that you should play the FV304 if you play any SPG in the game. The TOG 2. TOG 2 is a great tank. I love playing the tank. However, it's being removed from the game. So if you want to play a great tank, get it now. You have to buy it. It costs around $15. It's not going to be unplayable. It's just going to be unpurchasable. But it is a great tank. In fact, there's a chance that you might not see it in your tech tree. But I love playing the TOG 2. It's got a great gun, fast reload time, heavy armor, but it's probably the slowest tank in the game. The Tortoise is another tank that's extremely slow. It's got a great gun. All of these British anti-tank tank destroyers are really good tanks, like the AT-8, the AT-7, AT-15, and the Tortoise. If you like playing tank destroyers, you're going to like playing those tank destroyers. They've got good frontal armor. They've got great guns, but again, they are very slow. Let's move on to the German tanks. The Germans have a lot of great tanks. So it's going to be really difficult to discuss all the great German tanks, in part because a lot of them have a lot of names that are similar, like the Panzer II and the Panzer IIIA and the Panzer IVA and the Panzer IIG and the Panzer III and the Panzer IV-D. So you got a lot of them that are confusing. You'll notice the Panzer II, I have 63,000 experience points beyond what was necessary to play the tank. So I played a lot of games with that tank. I like the German light tanks. They've got rapid fire guns and they're fast. I liked playing the DW2. I remember when it came out, I thought it wasn't going to be a great tank, but I remember having a lot of good games with the DW2. There's people that like the Hetzer. I'm not a big fan of it. Once I learned how to destroy them, I kill them easily. But there's this other tank called the Stug, which is an awesome tank. I loved playing the Stug. It's a very good weapon. They're hard to kill. They're fast. They got great guns. These other tank destroyers are also great tanks. For example, the Jag D Tiger. I have the Jag Tiger 8.8 elite tank destroyer, premium tank. I love playing it. It's got a reasonable speed. It's got a great gun, good armor, and you're going to like playing the German tank destroyers also. The Tiger The Tiger II. These were the most notorious tanks during World War II. They were built by the Germans. They've got good frontal armor, and there's a lot of times when I was playing and there'd be a Tiger II and it would kill me. It happened many times. I like the Low. The Low is a good tank if you like to be a sniper. If you like to be from far away and be able to take aim at tanks that are a long distance away, that's the tank to get. The gun is very accurate. It's got decent armor, but it's also very slow. So the Low is a great tank. I love playing the Low. I liked playing some of these tanks like the VK-30, but I don't remember which one I liked the most. But I did enjoy some of those tanks. There's one that I skipped. I'm going to go back to because it's an important tank. It's an American tank. It's probably this T-18, but I'm not sure because I never really played it. I think it's this T-18 tank that a lot of people play it, and it's got great frontal armor. It's got a great gun. It's a little bit hard to play because the turret doesn't spin around. These are fearsome tanks, and there will be people who will come and they will kill you with this type of a tank. So if you can learn how to play that tank, you'll get a lot of good games out of it. I think I finished up the German tanks. Let's see if there's anything else here interesting. Well, you've got things like the Ferdinand and the Waffenträger. They've got good guns on them, so they can do a lot of damage if you like tank destroyers. Let's move on to the French tanks. The lower tier French tanks are not that great, but the higher tier French tanks are really good. You've got tanks like this D2, the B1, the BDR G1B, the ARL-44. They're all slow tanks. However, some of them are very powerful. I don't remember which one it is. Perhaps it's this B1. But one of these is the strongest tank for the tier in the entire game. It must be the B1 is the strongest tier 4 tank. Basically what I did was I wrote down all the tanks for the tier. Maybe it was tier 4, and I found out that this was the strongest. It had the strongest gun or something like that. The ELC AMX, when you see this tank, you're going to want this tank. It's extremely fast. It's extremely small. It goes 65 kilometers per hour. The gun's not that great. It's great for scouting. It's great for scaring people. You see people go into a panic mode when this little ELC comes running around. So I think if you like to go and scare people with hit and run, even though you can't do a lot of damage, this is a great tank to play. These AMX tanks like the 12T and the 1375, you start to get into small, fast tanks that have autoloaders so you can shoot more than once. They reload very quickly. But they don't have great armor. They're great for if you want to get close and spy on the enemy and spot tanks and hide in a bush, or if you want to take a couple of shots and then run. Those are the tanks to do it with. Some very popular tanks are this one here, the Bat Chatillon. It is very fast. It lets you shoot more than once. You can load more than one round into the gun. The Foch series is very popular, and even these AMX tank destroyers. If you like tank destroyers, I definitely recommend you try to play one of the Foches. I've seen these AMX 50Bs in the game before. I'm sure that they're very good tanks. And let's see if there's anything else interesting. Oh, the FCM 50T. I love the FCM 50T. It's a fast tank. It's a heavy tank. It is one of the fastest heavy tanks. It's sort of a big tank. I get a lot of good games out of that tank. Now the Russian tanks. There's a lot of great Russian tanks. you've got these tanks like the BT-2 and the BT-7 and the A-20 and the T-34. I loved playing all of those tanks. You can see that for some of them I have 10,000 combat experience, 5,700. That's beyond what was necessary to play. I loved playing the T-28. I got some of the best games playing the T-28. The KV-1 is a popular tank, but I seem to recall it's a little bit slow. However, it's a very important tank because it leads to the KV-1S, which is a very fast, powerful tank with lots of options. You've got different gun options. You've got the big, powerful gun that does a lot of damage with a slow reload, etc. The KV-85 was also a good tank. The T-150 is a great tank. It's similar to the KV-1. In fact, the T-150 was probably the best tank I ever played. I got the best games out of all the tanks in World of Tanks, probably with the T-150. There's other tanks in here like this A-43 and the T-34-85. I like them because they're reasonably fast. I get good games out of them. The tank destroyers such as the Su-85, those should be fun to play. When you get into the higher tiers, you've got the IS-8, the IS-3, the IS-6. They're all quite similar, and they're great tanks. Excuse me. I think the IS-6 is my best performing premium tank. Part of the reason why is because I have the best crew on my IS-6 and my IS-3. So my crew has a lot of experience on these tanks, and they do very well in the game. I also have this ST-1. I don't really recommend it. I did not enjoy playing it. It's not that fun, but I have to play it in order to get up to this IS-4. There's another tank here called the Matilda, and you'll see I have 75,000 combat experience. I love playing the Matilda. The Matilda is a British tank, and it has decent armor, and it's got the gun has a quick reload time. So and on top of that, it's a premium tank. So in that tier, which is tier 5, you do better than the other people in the game. It's better equipped than a lot of the other tanks in the game, so it's an important tank. It does well against most other tanks, and I really liked playing it. But I have the feeling that not everybody's going to like that tank. You know, I skipped a tank. I'm going to go back to it. It's possible that they removed it. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. There's a German tank. It looks like it was removed from the tech tree. I believe it's called the E-25. It's one of the best tanks in the game. I will show you the E-25. Here it is. This is an E-25. This is one of the greatest tanks in the game. It is extremely fast, and the gun has a very quick reload time, and it's a tank destroyer, which means that it has a good gun and it's got good frontal armor. This is an awesome tank. It was a premium tank. I had to pay for it, and I got a lot of good games out of it. For example, I had a game where I killed 5 tanks in 60 seconds. I'm going to go back to the tech tree. So it's possible, since it's not in the tech tree right now, it's possible that you can't buy it anymore. I definitely recommend an IS-6 if you want to buy a premium tank. Let's move on to the Chinese tanks. The Chinese tanks have a premium tank which is no longer in the tech tree, called the Type 59. And there's people, you'll see here there's a Type 58. There are people who claim that the Type 59 is the best tank in the game. However, I've never played it, but I have seen it on the battlefield. I like this Type T-34. It's a fast tank. It's got a decent gun on it. I kind of like playing the T-34 and the T-58 and the 34-1 and the IS-2. I see these WZ-132s and the WZ-120. I see them in the game. They're fast. They do well in the game. When I see these, I run and hide. You've got this 112 and the T-34-3, which are premium tanks and you have to pay for. They're great tanks. They're fast. Even the heavy tank is fast compared to the medium tank. And they've got great guns and they've got good armor. So they're great premium tanks. The reason why I haven't purchased them is because I've got so many tanks. I just got to limit myself somewhere. But I love... I read about them. I remember when they came out. I read all the specs. They are awesome tanks, and you'll definitely do well if you decide to purchase one of those. However, I seem to recall that it's not necessary to buy both because they are quite similar in many ways. The Japanese tanks, I never enjoyed playing any of the Japanese tanks. And I don't know how they get in these upper levels, but I do know that for the most part they suck. And I really, really don't think you're going to get that much enjoyment out of the lower tier Japanese tanks, and I really don't know about the higher tier. But I could imagine if you had an STA-1 and an STB-1, you probably might like those tanks. So those are the tanks that I really liked playing. Now I'm going to tell you the tanks that you're not going to like. There's a tank here called the T1 Cunningham. It's not that great. The M3 Lee is probably the most hated tank in the game. The gun sucks. It's difficult to drive. Let's see if there was something else that I hated. I didn't really like the Birch gun. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, I don't like playing these tank destroyers because, again, I like to be close to the enemy, which means they hit me often, and they have poor side armor usually, and they can't take that many hits. I wasn't always happy playing the Churchill, even though I had great games with it. Good gun. I killed a lot of people, surprised myself, but I like being more maneuverable. I like being close to the enemy. You can't really do that with that tank. The German tanks, all these VK tanks, it was a very painful run. I hated playing all these tanks. I dreaded every day when it was time to play one of these German VK, whatever it was, the VK30 or the VK28. And some of them I had great games on. But like this Panther, I really am not that excited about playing the Panther. The Tiger, I kind of like playing. It's got good armor. It's got a good gun. They're formidable on the battlefield. The Indian Panzer, I have only played a few games, but I like it, and other people say good things about it. I'm looking forward to playing it. There's a lot of tanks here. Like when I played the Lux, I wasn't that crazy about it. The reason why is because a lot of the guns on these lower tier German tanks are not that great. And there's a lot of times when you're going to play and you go up against an enemy and you hit them like 30 or 40 times and it doesn't do any damage. That's when you realize you don't like those tanks that much. I really didn't like the Hetzer very much, although a lot of people think it's a cool tank. Like I said, once I learned how to destroy them, I wasn't fearful of it or anything. Let's see what we got here. The French tanks. Here's one called the AMX-40. This was a very painful tank to play. It looks stupid. I hated playing it. It's very slow. It's got strange armor. The gun isn't worth anything. The tanks like this D2 and the B1 and the BDR G1B and the ARL 44, I guess you got to get used to them. You know, they're kind of slow, and I don't like slow tanks because I want to be close to the enemy. And if you have a slow tank, it takes a long time to get there, and the action's already started, so you have to hide from the enemy because the enemy's already got good positions. I didn't like playing these French tank destroyers. I think this one, the SAU 40, wasn't that bad. It's hard to remember, but like this S35 CA, when I played it, I was like, I was probably just play the game. I don't care if I die. Move on. Here's another tank called the Renault FT. I have a lot of combat experience in this tank. However, this is a terrible, awful tank. And the reason why I have a lot of combat experience is because I wanted to see what I could do. And there were games where I won the game for the whole team because of this tank. For example, I would roll straight across right to the enemy cap and cap the enemy with a Renault FT before anybody died on either side, you know, just to see if I could do it. Let's see, the Russian tanks. I have this KV-2, and the KV-2, it's an interesting tank. It used to be an artillery unit, and I kind of like playing it, but I'm really not that excited about playing it, and I don't play it that often. I do need to play it in order to get up to these SPGs, but I don't know. It's some people like it, I guess, and some people don't. Some of these tanks, like, I don't remember which one it is. Oh, the T60. I hate this tank. The T60, perhaps the T70, very painful type of tank to drive. I wish I had never done it. I seem to recall that they're difficult. They're difficult to control. To go in the direction you want to go to was very difficult. But in general, I like most of the Russian tanks. I don't really like playing the STI, which is a Tier 9 tank. I really just want to get through it and move on to the IS-4. I've got a good crew on it. It's well equipped, but it's kind of a big, bulky tank, and I'm not. I don't know. I just really don't like it that much. I seem to recall I liked the Valentine. Again, we've got this VAE Type B, which is like that this T60. It's, you know, it's difficult to control. It's not that great on the battlefield. You're not going to be able to do much. It was the M5A1 Stewart. I don't recall liking that tank either. It's an American tank. But when you get to the Type T34, things get a lot better, a lot faster. You're going to start... I could play these Chinese tanks. I only play them to get through it, to get to the top. I don't really focus on enjoying it, but I think I can. These are kind of like Russian tanks, and they're reasonably good to play. The Japanese tanks, I don't think I'm ever going to enjoy any of these tanks. In general, I think they all suck. You're probably not going to like them either. I'm going to go to my garage to see if there's anything interesting here. This is a T-32. I highly recommend it. You're going to love playing that tank. I love the TOG. You might not get a chance to play it because you won't be able to purchase it soon. The IS-3 is a great tank. You can look at my crew. I've got 94% on the third skill, which is really good. This tank hides very well. I kind of like the T-20. It's fast, but I don't know. The problem is you switch between a slow tank like the TOG and the T-20, and you got to play a different style, and I'm really not used to doing that right now. The T-69, it's a beautiful tank. It's a great tank. It's got the auto-loading. You can fire more than one shot. However, I really haven't... I don't know how to say it. I haven't been able to exploit its strengths. You know, I'm still playing it like I play the other tanks, and I need more time to focus on that. This is the Super Pershing. I love this tank. It's a medium tank. However, like I said, I don't get good games out of it, but I love playing it. Love playing the T-34 even though it's a little slow. I like this tank even though I die frequently. Because it's a tank destroyer, the armor's not that great. It's kind of easy to destroy from the side, and I like to play real close to the enemy. This one I haven't played very much. This one's a fun tank. I kind of like this style of tank, but again, this is the type of thing where you really got to play it only this tank over and over again to really enjoy it. This Indian Panzer, I'm still starting out with. I like pulling out with a Tiger. It's got good armor, good gun. I like playing it. I definitely like playing with the low. It's exciting, change of pace, even though it's slow. This is a great tank. I love playing it. I wish I could play it more often. I like playing this tank also. It's got a great gun. It's reasonable speed. You have to learn how to drive it, though. This, when I started playing, was really fun. I used to do a lot of crazy things. I don't play that style anymore, but it's a great tank. It's a lot of fun, and these tanks can be fun too. But you got to be careful. If you want to stay in the game, you have to hide and avoid the enemy because the armor is not that great. This one, I'm starting to like these French tanks. I've got them well equipped, and I've got good crews. Love this tank, the FCM50T. It's really fast, so when you're up against other heavy tanks, you can really outrun them. I love the Matilda 4. I love playing this tank. It's got rapid reload, good armor. It outclasses everything else in its tier. This one I haven't been playing much. I'm just working my way through it. Maybe I just bought it. This one is, I think it's reasonably slow because I'm always showing up last to battle. But it's got some advantages. You could hide behind other tanks, for example. You can hide behind rocks and peer that gun over it because the gun's pretty high. But it's one of those tanks where you really got to focus. If you're going to play this tank, you got to play only this tank because it's a different playing style. The IS-6, I get a lot of great games out of this tank. It's got great armor, great gun, great speed, and I got a great crew. My ST-1 is a little slow, and I don't like being the last to show up to battle. I don't know what to say about the gun. Maybe I'm not equipped very well. Maybe I've got the best gun, I'm not sure. But what I do know is that when I play... I'm sorry, it's not the ST-1, it's the STI. I really am not that crazy about playing this tank. I don't feel that I get the best games out of it. This is a Chinese tank. I guess it's okay. But when I play the Chinese tanks, I really don't take them very seriously. Same with this one. It should be a fun tank, but I don't take it very seriously because it's not really leading me somewhere to a better tank. The Japanese tanks, I mean, I don't take them seriously at all. I'm just playing them to get the double points. Okay, so that's my opinion on all of these tanks. I'm going to show you, I think it's in the service record. You look under vehicles. And we're going to look at the most victories. The T150 here, 69 games, 64%. I would say that is one of my better performing tanks. The T7 car, obviously I got some good numbers with, but this has a large number of gameplays, 69 battles. It's got a high number of victories. So I would say the T150 is my best performing tank in terms of victories. Now let's look at average experience. It looks like the T29 has the best experience for me. The IS-3, the IS-6 do well. The VK3002, I like rolling out with that tank. Oh, it looks like the STI does actually pretty good. If you look at this T26E4, you'll see that my victories is only 40%. That's really low. However, my average experience per battle is pretty good. So I'm going to look at the bottom. That's the Super Pershing. You can see that my Super Pershing is way at the bottom of the list. And let's look at the number of battles. the IS-6, the TOG. When I played the M2 Lite, it was mostly for exploration, to explore the maps. FCM-50T, the T-34, the Matilda, Panzer II, a lot of map exploration, the Low, KV-4. I'm a little bit surprised that, okay, the IS-6 is up there. The IS-6 I definitely play a lot. And the reason why is because it's got a great crew. So that is my tank list. I don't have mastery badges on everything. Some of them I have, probably nothing serious. Like I was saying, the T-69 autoloader, played a lot of battles. I don't have a mastery badge on it, and it's a great tank. But the problem is, I'm not used to the playing style. But I should. There's too many different types of tanks. You really want to focus on one. Okay, I think that is it, and thank you for watching my video. I'm going to show you a statistic here. Enemy vehicle spotted 1.87. If you look at most people, enemy vehicle spotted, they probably will not have anything as high as I do. 1.87 is really good. They'll probably have numbers like 0.5. Damage received, I usually have a high number because I get hit often. Battle survived 15%, I die and everything. But I otherwise do pretty good. Okay, thank you.